to come, and that's going to include the new tax on the wealthiest, new taxes on oil companies and banks. There's been a lot of talk about that, but also what's interesting is that today there's a publication of the report from the National Audit Office, and that's going to give a picture of the broader public financial picture, as to how things are going in the annals of the Budget Office, and that's going to explain also, Libération says, perhaps how the government's going to manage these revelations that there have been budget holes in the previous government, that it's going to have to manage now while having these ambitious plans to kind of expand a few of the ministries, new government ministers, but at the same time there's a juggling act because the new government is trying to reduce the civil servant, the salaries actually of the civil servants, as we heard about the announcements previously about the cuts to the ministries' budgets. So bit by bit they're reducing on the one hand, but also on the other they're going on with those famous taxes on the wealthiest, on the big oil companies and the banks. And then what's interesting is Libération says that by coming up with this new budget report at the same time, it's kind of perhaps a sleight of hand, trying to give everyone the impression that, well, the current government has no choice because of the austerity measures imposed upon it.
Now, the paper, the Les Echos, they're talking about the austerity side of the budget, aren't they?
Yeah, indeed. So they focus right in on the austerity side of things. They basically say that they go in to focus on the expenses being reduced across the board, in some ministries by as much as 7%. And basically a lot of the people who previously criticized the socialists for being far too lenient in budgetary terms, they're saying they're cut far too little, having a bloated budget. Now people are coming out of the woodwork to say, well, listen, the socialists are actually cutting far too much too quickly.
And what about the right-wing press, Le Figaro? I'm sure they probably have something slightly different to say, do they?
Well, Le Figaro, on the margins of the front page, they're saying, they accord a bit of an interview to the finance minister, Moscovici, who says our top priority is to cut the deficit. So very much in line with the message that across the board the government's trying to send out today. But the bulk of the front page of the Figaro focuses on the race to lead the UMP, the right of centre, previously governing party. So there we're seeing the people in the running. François Fillon announced his running over the weekend, and a couple of the heavy hitters that we've seen for years, really. Alain Juppé, they run an interview with him, as well as a lot of speculation as to whether and why he may or may not run.
Now, Carl, you'll be glad to know as far as a bit of a whiff of scandal. This is to do with social housing, though.
Yes, 380,000 homes with reduced rent are actually thought to be occupied by people earning more than 4,000 euros a month.
Wow.
So in fact, there is a whiff of scandal indeed, because the social housing is very important in France. There's quite a lot of it, but we're finding out now that a lot of it is going to people who are doing quite well indeed. And that's, of course, with about 1 million people waiting for social housing of some kind.
Okay, and finally, something a bit more disturbing. One of the boats that struggled to make it across the Mediterranean but failed.
Yeah. Now, here I'm not sure if you can make it out, but on the front page of L'Humanité, we see the title, Murders on the High Seas. Now, here is a story about another craft trying to make its way from North Africa to Europe, overcrowded, familiar story. And what happened in this case, however, was that they had issued distress calls. They were running out of food, and unfortunately it became clear in the EU report that actually the NATO forces were aware, as well as a number of international ships in the area. So what's coming clear now is that people knew, and somehow people were allowed to die.
Carl, thanks very much. That's Carl Brown with the newspapers today here on France 24. Now, coming up for you, a special report with the Kurds who fled their homes in Syria. They are now in camps, in fact, in Iraq. We'll be looking at their plight very shortly here in Focus. Stay with us.